Alright guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today we're going to be talking about all of the latest BMW records that were broken this past weekend. As you guys know, this time of year is great. Records are broken pretty much every single weekend across all the different platforms. You know, the temperatures are dropping, we're seeing the lowest DAs we've seen in a while, and everybody that's been, pushing their cars all year is finally getting the most performance out of their setups. And of course, that was no different this past weekend. A lot of people hit the track and they saw really crazy numbers with their setups. And so we'll talk about the results in this video and hopefully you find it useful. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So the first one, of course, is coming from Botti. And if you guys haven't been following his build, back in July, he posted that he bought an M340i. Now, his Supra is the fastest Supra out there right now, and he basically committed to make this M340 the same. So the first step that he decided to embark on is trying to make it the fastest stock turbo car out there. In particular, he wanted to get it into the 9-second range. Now, this has happened on the Supra. If you guys remember, the first 9-second Supra was actually a stock turbo car, but it had a bunch of nitrous on top. So it took a little while for us to be able to push the stock turbo to that level without spraying nitrous at all. And then we finally saw a 9-second stock turbo car with just boost, no nitrous or power adders on top. So he kind of decided to adopt a similar build with the M340, but he knew that weight was going to be a huge factor to achieve those same results, even if it had the same B58 engine. So a couple weeks after he got the car, he posted some of the initial results, which were obviously impressive. He was already down into the mid 10-second range. He ran about a 10.4. Now at this point, the setup was still pretty simple. So it was, of course, stock turbo, like I said, but he did have a downpipe, as well as port injection and charge pipe injected meth. And that'll kind of be a common theme that you guys will see with his builds lately. He runs port injection as well as meth injection. He also has a lot of weight reduction done, so he installed carbon seats and he deleted his back seats. And then he's also running lightweight front brakes with RPF1s and radials. Now, I think that's really key here because if you reduce your rotational mass in your driveline, it provides significantly more gains than reducing, static weight in the car. It's something like 1 pound for your weight and rotational mass is equal to 10 pounds of static mass. So that was a really big part to getting the car to accelerate as well. And then he is running a turn down off of the downpipe, so he deleted his catback for additional weight savings and better efficiency out of the turbo. And then he was running with an E91 plus the meth that he was spraying. So definitely really good performance with minimal work, pretty simple. Just remove the weight inside the car, run lightweight wheels, and give it all the fuel that the turbo can take. But of course, he wanted to push it even further. Now, a couple weeks later, he posted new results where he was able to push the car to a 10.3. And as a part of this build, he basically identified cooling as the biggest issue. He basically said he had installed some Kelford Cams, but he was just seeing really high temperatures, and he needed to get those temperatures down in order to get the car faster. And so you can see in this latest iteration of the build, he's installed a CSF intake manifold, and he also installed an RK Tunes front mount intake, which he specifically said provided probably the biggest improvement in IATs. So definitely big shout out to RK Tunes. It sounds like your intake works really, really well. And now it's running on the fastest stock turbo BMW B58. So at this point, he had broken the record that was previously set, both on draggy and at a drag strip, but he still hadn't quite hit that 9-second goal. Then about 2 weeks ago, he posted that he finally got the car into the 10.1 second range. And he mentioned that, he did a couple additional changes to reduce the weight, help improve the aero. So you can kind of see here, he removed the rear diffuser, maybe to eliminate some of that parachuting effect without the catback exhaust installed. But probably what gave him the biggest improvement was he basically commented on how BMW struggled to 60 foot like Supras. A lot of these guys run a tall tire, and with a really sticky tire, they're able to 60 foot really well. And through some tuning changes and I guess a little bit of magic, he was able to get the car to run a really low 60 foot, and that helped him take off the additional tenths he needed to get in the 10.1 range. And then finally, a week ago, what we see here is one of the latest iterations of the car. You can see now it has a carbon fiber trunk, it has additional weight reduction, and even with the improved temperatures that we were seeing, he ran multiple 10.0 passes. So I can imagine that was probably the most frustrating weekend for him yet. It's literally knocking on the doors of the 9-second range. But, even though we all knew at this point it was proving that it would be capable, he just hadn't quite had that 9-second pass yet. He did mention specifically that at this point they had gotten the weight down significantly. It was actually weighing just under 3,400 pounds without a driver and around 3,540 with a driver. So that's insane considering these cars weigh almost 4,000 pounds. They had taken out hundreds of pounds of weight, and that was definitely a contributing factor to getting the car to run this fast. And then finally, this past weekend, he made it happen. They were able to run their 9.9 pass, and you can see here how that run looked. The car was obviously running very well. Now for the build, for everybody that's curious, again, he did post all the details. So still stock turbo, still stock bottom end in the engine. He did build the head with Kelford components. It also has the pure drivetrain solution stage 2 transmission, which I think is really helpful at these points where you're probably pushing the limits of the stock trans. Upgrading your trans will give you faster shifts and better performance. So that was definitely a nice upgrade on the later half of the year. He also has the Visconti Tuning fuel upgrade setup, including the reflex with the low pressure fuel pump. He has a CSF intake manifold, the RK Tunes front mount intake, also the small Willwood brake setup, and then he has some upgraded axles. So yeah, he took out everything in this car. I think he even commented on removing the rear door panels and the rear deck lid for the rear parcel shelf. So that was really, I think, probably the biggest key to getting the car this fast, as well as learning how to launch the car. And once he was able to dial that in, with his tuning changes and learning how to drive the car, he was really able to turn it into a rocket. So big shout out to Mikey and all the guys on his team for getting this car in the 9-second range. He's pretty much moving on immediately. Now he's talking about putting a big turbo kit on it and trying to make it run an 8-second quarter with the stock engine. So we'll see how that goes over the next couple months. But yeah, super exciting to see this. We knew it was capable, and a lot of people have been talking about it, but finally we're seeing somebody actually make it happen. Now, as far as power is concerned, a lot of people have asked me how much power is the car making, and the stock turbos on the Gen 2s are a little bit bigger than the ones on the Gen 1, so it looks like he was able to post a dyno from another car running the similar, if not the same tune, and he showed when he pushed it, it was making over 540 wheel horsepower and over 700 foot-pounds of torque. And I think that torque, again, is the killer here, being able to hook up the car and get it to launch hard with a lot of torque to get that, 60 foot and everything early going really well is what gives the car the best opportunity to run the fastest quarter mile. It's just going to run out of breath up top. It's not going to pull as hard as a big turbo on the tail end, but for the first half, you really need to get it out of the hole and running fast. So, a lot of torque is the key here. He even mentioned that it was running 34 PSI on that run. So, lots of boost, lots of torque going through that little baby stock turbo in order to get it in the 9-second range. And then a nice little bonus. So we had a Gen 1 record broken as well this past weekend. So that White F30 on Instagram posted that his 340i ran a 9.4 quarter mile, which is completely crazy on a stock B58 engine. He even has a stock intake manifold, which is probably even more impressive, but that car is really flying. Now, I know you guys are probably wondering, how is this possible on a 340i that isn't even an M Sport package? How can this be so fast? And, it's really all about the setup. So he did post the details on his build. It's a DOCRace EFR 9180 top mount turbo, a pure drivetrain solution stage 2 transmission. He has a Sutphin custom transmission tune, and the DME is tuned by Motorsports over MHD. And then, of course, it has all of the necessary fuel mods, so low pressure fuel pump, high pressure fuel pump, and port injection. And it's just really running really hard. I think that big turbo is a little bit lazy. It's a little bit laggy. And so that's also contributing to keeping everything together. He's able to maximize the performance on his setup because the turbo isn't beating up everything too hard, especially down low. So once he gets it out of the hole and really running, the turbo's flying. You know, it does all the work for him, and he's running over 30 psi. He even said that he has some higher boost maps ready to test, but I think he just, you know, wanted to play it safe that weekend. He ran 294 passes, which is super impressive already, but maybe he'll do like a little maintenance and things to make sure the car stays together before he runs his higher power maps. He also posted his 60 to 130 time, which you can see here. He's running a 4.8 60 to 130 and a 4.1 100 to 200. Again, on a completely stock Gen 1 B58 engine. Just really insane to see this from a 340. So a huge shout out to you as well, showing that it's not just the Supras that are able to run really fast. We've got multiple BMWs that are in the 9-second range and knocking on the door of 8 seconds. So hopefully we see that soon. But in the meantime, congrats to everybody that has been involved and had a great weekend. Hopefully more to come. And yeah, I think that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.